Yes.
stark. And
Yes.
what did you learn from kind of seeing the world from two angles at that time in your life? If you, or maybe if you like reflect back on that, and is that something that has helped shape you or something you think about today?
It does a lot. So part of it is like I had to listen a lot because you don't know. I kind of looked at it as not a safe place for me automatically.
Right.
And I don't think it's necessarily a safe place for anyone automatically. Like I couldn't assume. I found myself in spaces where I had to assume this was probably not developed for me, and listen to figure out how I could fit in that moment. Because you don't in life you don't always have a choice,
Yeah.
right? When you're going in, and so it's like learning how to fit in that moment and be authentic without losing yourself
Yeah.
was one of the things that you had to learn. Just as much as if you're going to another country where the native language is different from your native language, it's not just about learning the words, it's about learning the use of the proper phrase. What would be a normal response to something like this? Especially when you start learning that outside of English, there are places in you know countries that have 5 words for love and they all mean something different. So you can't just say love. It's like, wait, is this a familial love? Is this like you love an object? It's a different word. Or so just like that, it was listening of how were people communicating about various things so that I could figure out my space and understand how to communicate about my experience with other people, sometimes using their language.
So you were really, and maybe you're aware of it, but you were studying culture at that point, right? So like to your point, understanding how to keep the core of yourself, but work within that culture. And I was going to use the word fit in, but I don't know if that's right. But like work within the culture
It's
because
working
yeah,
within the culture, like
yeah,
you're saying. And I should share with you. This goes all the way back. So let me flash all the way back when I was in kindergarten. This is a pivotal moment. It changed my life forever. So one of the things that happened when I was in kindergarten, I was a sick kid and I wasn't allowed to play outside. My allergies were so bad that I could not play outside. And so I was inside, and I remember the kindergarten teacher was like, one person gets to stay inside with Jackye. Not has to, right? Gets to. Nobody wanted to hang out with me inside. And why would they? We were 5 years old. There had swing sets and sandboxes, and I realized at that moment and I was terribly shy and anxious. They used to say I was shy, but I think I was just anxious. I wasn't shy. I just
right,
needed to figure out where I was in order before I felt comfortable.
yeah.
And at that moment, I had to figure out a way to make being inside with Jackye during recess the most popular thing ever.
And
I had to
you
figure
remember that
out
from 5 years old.
I remember that from 5 years old because I was afraid. Plus, I was sick, so that I was already weird. Plus, I was one of the few black kids, so I was like just weird on top of weird on top of weird. So I was like, people like jokes. People like jokes. So I learned all these jokes, like memorized this joke book and would go to school every night. I would memorize these jokes. And people thought I was so funny and they liked laughing. So they would want to hang out with Jackye inside. Like it was a whole plan on how I was going to convince these people of doing that. And that's just kind of gone through my whole life.
And so that sounds to me like you adapt to your environment and understand what's around you. And then once you adapt to that environment, you figure out, okay, this is what people are going to take to or interested in. And then you can get people to gravitate towards you, which
Right.
which is a really unique skill, especially at 5 years old. And also the fact that you remember it and you've carried that through. And I imagine that's probably one of the reasons why you've been able to work in many different types of environments, doing different types of work. And you talked about communication at the start, getting your message
Yes.
across. This is not something that everyone has, and you probably know that. Can this be taught? or is this nurture or nature?
You know, it can be taught, but you have to, the difficult part is that you have to get rid of ego.
Right.
And that's the hardest part, to be able to, before you before you just jump right in sharing back and forth. Normal banter is, tell me about you and I'll tell you about me, and we'll go back and forth and then we know each other. And but it takes you being honestly, authentically trying to learn as much as you can about the other person, their dreams, their hopes, how they get here, where do they want to go. Really letting yourself be fully studying into what's going on. And that's how I go into organizations as well. You know, of really looking at trying to find patterns on why the things are happening before responding. Because a lot of times it's human nature to respond before we get the whole story,
Well,
right?